What's up, everybody? Welcome to Brain Balance Live. My name is Corey, and with me today, as always, every week, I have Heather Wells with me from The Hidden Churn and also Brain Balance. And Heather, how you doing? Everything's doing awesome today, yeah?
Yes, doing well. Have friends in from out of town, having a good time.
Okay. I went a little swimming today. I'm a little congested up here, so forgive me if I sound a little stuffy, but we're hanging in there. We are surviving, and everything's pretty good. I wanted to just let everybody know that Heather is a board-certified cognitive therapist. She is a National Autism Summit speaker, and she is also a licensed therapist. And we are here today to share some tips and information with you to help your kids thrive who might be struggling with some sensory issues. In fact, I am a brain balanced dad myself. And what does that mean? That means that my child, Roger, my middle son, went through the program for 9 months. And we're so glad that he did, because not only did we learn a lot about him, but we learned a lot about ourselves. So today and every single week, we go through different topics. Today's topic is going to be all about reading and calling it potentially boring. Now, Heather, reading is not boring. It can actually be something that is not labor intensive. It can be something that's beneficial to our kids. And, I think back at the Book It Club. You remember this?
I don't.
Okay. So back when I was a kid, there were these huge buttons, and it was called Book It. And I think maybe it was only in Florida or something. But they said for every book you read, you actually get a gold star. And so when you get 5 gold stars, you get a, Pizza Hut pizza, a personal pizza. Now, not only is that just completely messed up, but I think that there's a lot of those things that we're going to talk about. So let me understand. If you force your kid to read and then reward them for reading the book, not necessarily teaching them to just actually enjoy it, then you reward them with something that is full of fat, absolutely horrific for them, and just probably not the best case scenario for them. I'm guessing that we're probably not talking about that during this show. Yeah,
We are not. In fact, I have what you just said on the first slide, because when we give a carrot stick situation for reading, that implies that reading is a punishment. And because you endured the hardship of reading, then that is something to be rewarded. It was like this drudgery. You did it anyway. And one of the most important, it's summertime. Kids need a break from school. We don't want learning to feel like school, right? I mean, some kids have to go to summer school, but I mean, what we're doing at home, reading every day is very, very important. But the way we kind of unintentionally convey that it's a chore or a drudgery, for one thing, if we call our kids reluctant readers or struggling readers or some of those terms, that even if they hear that, then we are reinforcing that they are reluctant to read. We need to let them pick what they read this summer. I would, instead of enforcing this is what you're going to read, what are some books about hobbies or interests they have? I have so many book recommendations with tips related to those that we're going to go over. What are some characters that they can relate to? What is something where they're going to have some background knowledge to pull in? Oh, this reminds me of a vacation we took, because they're going to be more successful when they're reading. Therefore, they're not going to try to avoid it as much, but also, they're going to understand it better. They're having some agency, some saying what they're reading. They're told what to read all year long. Let them pick. Make the trip to the library fun. Make it an adventure.
Yeah.
Allow them to choose where they read. I mean, reading outdoors under a tree, in the morning or in the evening before it gets really, before it's hot, too hot outside, or in the shade, or with a ceiling fan under the patio or something. But let them pick. The more choices they have about what they're reading, where they're reading, the more they are feeling some sense of choice, and that automatically makes it less drudgery. That don't tell me what to do thing isn't going to kick in as much. Discuss the benefits of reading in terms that matter to them. We want engaged readers. They need to understand that, they say we only have one life to live, but when you're reading books, you actually, in a certain way, I mean, you're exposed to so many things. It's, there's even a famous quote about that.
Yeah.
We need to give kids we don't want to talk to them about reading so that you will do better when school starts back, even if that is one of your primary reasons.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits? Who are some people they admire who love reading? What is something really fascinating that you've learned? What have you become better at as a result of reading? And talking about how it helps them understand themselves, it helps them understand other people, but talk in their terms. So, let's see, anything, we have to show excitement with reading also. And I get a lot of questions, by the way, about what about audiobooks versus the paper books? And audiobooks can be great, especially if you have kids who are really struggling to sound out words. I mean, it's better than not reading at all. However, I do want to emphasize that is working the brain in a different way from them reading themselves. And there has been research coming out showing that reading on a tablet can decrease comprehension for reasons we don't have time to get into today.
Right.
So I would say, I mean, in a car audiobook, that's fantastic. Or if they're struggling to read, have them read along as they're listening to the book is better than just listening to it, because that will help grow their ability to sound out the words. But or work on eye tracking if it's a visual perception issue, which is separate from dyslexia, but not instead of paper books. And not to mention that it's a much broader sensory experience with a book for a variety of reasons. Okay, so let's move on. So they've picked their book. One of the simplest, instead of it sounding like we're talking about, I have done reading shows before where I am much more in depth about how to grow reading comprehension. This grows reading comprehension, but it doesn't feel like school. And this also makes an abstract concept concrete. A lot of kids, their eyes go across the words and then they finish reading. They have no clue what they just read because they think that reading comprehension comes from my eyes are looking at the words and I am reading them. That's what the reading voice is. It reads the printed text. It looks at the pictures. If you only use this voice, you will not understand what you read. We need to explicitly tell kids this. To make meaning, you use your thinking voice. So you read a little bit, that's your reading voice. Then you pause. This is hard for a lot of our kids with impulse control issues. We want to work on impulse control in a variety of fun ways. Red light, green light. I've done shows about impulsivity also. Simon Says, but teach them to pause. Maybe you even, when they're getting used to it, you could have a little hand signal or a little stop sign or something. And now, notice your thought. What were you thinking when you were reading? Now, hopefully it's about the book. If it's not, say, we gotta beware of distracting voice. You can even name that voice so that they recognize their struggle with focus as something separate from their identity. I talked about that last week. But what are you thinking? I teach them to wonder. The kinds of questions they want to ask. Why did so-and-so do this? How come this happened? And then think about answers to those questions. You're teaching them to read between the lines, infer information, bring in background knowledge. Oh, that reminds me of the time I did XYZ. Oh, that's happened to me before. Now I'm relating to the character. Fictitious characters can become our kids' friends. And then having book series is great because it's just like they're developing that relationship more deeply with their fictitious friends. Summaries. Every once in a while, they want to pause, not just at the end of the story or at the end of a chapter, but okay, let me recap this. And if they're getting stuck, you can say, picture it. Close your eyes and picture what happened, or draw a picture and then tell me about the picture. Synthesize. What I'm realizing is this. Now they're starting to understand the theme or the main idea. And this part was about this. This part was about that. Themes are not always explicitly stated, whereas sometimes the main idea is. But teach them about reading voice versus thinking voice. So many kids do not know. If my eyes go over the words, I should understand it, and that's just not the case.
And they can contradict each other too, right? I think when one voice is speaking while the other voice is trying, you just end up with this muck, and you just spent all this time looking at something and your eyes are scanning left to right like they're supposed to, but then you go, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I just read. and holy cow, it's 15 minutes just passed by and I only have 15 minutes left to finish this piece. Okay, let me start again. Left, right, left, right. I did it again. Oh, it's 5 minutes after the 15 minutes I just read, right? And it's like, I feel like it's this cyclical, like almost anxiety starts to set in, you know?
It so often does, yes. But by pausing, if you picture like balls juggling in the air, all these thoughts, when you pause, those balls have time to come down.
Yeah.
And the ones that don't belong can go away. Another thing that I love is talking to your kids about guess what's going to happen next. You're teaching them prediction. And it takes away the anxiety of it because you're not asking for an answer where there's a right or a wrong. They are guessing what they think is going to happen next. You also can guess what the story is going to be about before you even open the book. Teach them that the book cover has a lot of clues. You know, Stan the hot dog man. What do you think this book is about? You know, well, who do you think's on the cover? Why do you think that? Why do you think they call him the hot dog man? You know, and you're already building reading familiarity before you even open the book. Teach kids to use context cues. So many times kids will blow by vocabulary words and they don't know what they mean. And then maybe when they're pausing, my thought was, what on earth does such and such mean? Whereas if they didn't pause, they would have just blown past and not learned, you know, how to pick up on context clues. Growing vocabulary is one of the most powerful things we can do to improve reading comprehension, as well as pulling in background knowledge. What does this remind you of? And then if they can't think of anything, you know what it reminds me of? Does it remind, and then kind of give an example.
Yeah.
And we want to read with our kids a lot and model the thinking voice. Pause and say out loud the things that you are thinking, and they start learning what that thinking voice sounds like. But you are connecting the dots. That's what those little dots over there are for.
Love it. Did you design these?
I did, yes.
This is beautiful. Like, I mean, this is really cool. I love these visuals. I mean, I don't know. You're like a graphic designer in your other life, I think.
Canva is my friend. You know, you'll probably notice some slides you're like, yep, that's amateur. But yes, I create all my own slides.
I love it. They're beautiful.
Thank
all right,
you.
Here we go.
All
Next
right.
slide.
Yes.
All right, let's go.
So when we're talking about reading, there is a ton of research that shows that it grows empathy, the ability to put yourself into someone else's shoes, perspective. It grows so many critical thinking skills when you pause and think about what happened, what was the turning point, what was the conflict, what was the resolution. Would you do anything differently? Why or why not? How do you think this character was feeling? Have you ever felt that way? Do you think you've ever done anything that made somebody else feel that way? And it's non-threatening because you're talking to them when they're in a calm state. They're not heightened about, I can't believe Jim did that to me. No, it is sort of a hypothetical, but then you're pulling real life into it. This grows when we ask the right questions, when we have, it's called dialogic reading. You are having dialogue as you go through, and it makes it more meaningful. These happen, and then you get these aha moments. I love the idea of getting books about inventions that happened by accident.
Yeah.
You know, Scotchgard happened when a woman accidentally spilled a certain chemical on her shoe. You know, the microwave, X-rays, Post-it notes. I mean, so many things were invented by accident. And reading a story about that, and then you're instilling a growth mindset. Wow, when I make mistakes, I can learn and grow from them. Yeah. Look at some cool things that can happen when you make mistakes. I don't have to feel perfectionistic. I don't have to feel like my worth depends upon my performance. These happen to be some actual books that have neurodiverse characters in them listed here. So take a screenshot of this if you're looking for book recommendations. There are many more to come. But on the right, Focus, Lights, Camera, Disaster, Each Tiny Shark, Checkmates, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, The Boy with the Butterfly Mind. All of these have neurodiverse characters as the lead role. And those are excellent books. To really, even when it's a fictitious character, kids start to think, I'm not all alone. Other people face these struggles too.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to make this full screen for everybody so they can take a screenshot if they wish. So here we go. Take that screenshot. That way you don't have to have me and Heather's faces in your picture. We'll leave it up for about 5. Yeah, we'll leave it up for about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you come back to our beautiful faces. There you go.
Yes, we can move on. I have many more book recommendations I'm going to share in a little bit. I wanted to talk about some non-reading activities that grow literacy. It does not just have to be sitting there with a book, although we do need that also. I've talked about cultivating wonder. You can do that when kids are gardening. They have a plant they're taking care of, and wow, look at how it grows. Look what happens when I do this with science experiments or family outings. You want to instill in your kids a desire to be seeking knowledge and wisdom all the time. And what is one of the best ways to get that? Through books. We want to teach kids how to think, not what to think. We want them to feel the intrinsic motivation that comes from connecting dots and having aha moments and seeing all the cool things in the world. And then if they are really drawn to something in one of these outings, that's a perfect book topic to go find for them. Word and board games. There are so many of these. Scrabble, Heads Up, Balderdash, Password, where you can have a word wall, do word ladders. This isn't listed here, but so many reading struggles are caused by issues with eye tracking. There are 12 muscles in our eyes that have to work together for visual perception. Those are extremely tied to attention and that feeling of, wow, I just blanked out while I was reading. And that is separate and apart from a cognitive inability to focus sometimes. But anytime you're doing mazes, play I Spy, go on scavenger hunts where they're having to find things in the environment. We want to do motor activities. When you exercise, you are building the same brain pathways that grow reading, writing, math, all of the traditional academic things that you think of. Jumping on a trampoline, playing musical chairs, running, tennis, badminton. I mean, anything. You want to get the heart rate up. You're increasing oxygen, blood flow, glucose. When we exercise, when we engage our core and our large muscle groups, we have about 200 million neurons that fire off from the back of the brain to our critical thinking center that improves organization, time management, planning, attention, problem solving, social skills, emotional regulation, sensory bends, sensory experiences that work the eyes. If it's a rainy day, mazes, word finds. One of these things is not like the other. Sorting games, building with blocks, having kids help sort laundry by color, or anything, sorting by one attribute, then two, then three. They are learning same and different. That translates into reading also. Meaningful conversations. I cannot tell you how much research there also is about the difference in literacy at very young ages when parents talk with their kids. Even when they're not able to talk back to us, they are learning valuable skills that will translate into literacy. I mean, there is research done even on preschoolers and the difference. And I understand that sometimes, they don't understand what I'm saying. They can't talk back to me. They are still growing skills. Talk with your kids as they get older. I mean, think about skills you need for reading comprehension and pull those into conversation. You can do it with movies. You can do it with songs. What do you think the song means? Why do you think that? A quote of the week, pulling in background knowledge. I was facing this and I remembered how last year this happened and I tried this, it didn't work, Always be connecting dots and showing how you pull in background knowledge. We talk about one-on-one connected time, quality time with your kids, asking open-ended questions. If they ask you questions, answer them with another question.
Yeah. It's the same way. Like when I picked my kids up from camp the other day, I was like, how was camp? And they, I was like, I can't ask this question. I can't do that. That's not a good question, because they're like, good. Right.
Yeah.
But so tell me, what was your favorite part of camp?
Yes. What was the funniest thing that happened? Anything where it's more specific. You want open-ended, where it's not yes, no, but targeted. That's exactly what Corey's saying. That is exactly right. When they ask you a question, well, why can't I stay out till midnight tonight? How would that impact our plans that we have early tomorrow morning?
Then they get the critical thinking.
What happened last time? So when they ask you a question, it's not being evasive. It's if it is an answer that they can come to, and then they give maybe they give an answer that's too generic. Ask another question about that.
Yeah, love it. Okay, perfect. All right. Are we getting right into some books you recommend, or you want to go back?
Let's go back to that slide. Let me just make sure I covered everything because I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. I love this idea so much. Just think of what your kid enjoys and come up with something. There is a comedian. His name is Nate Bargatze. Have you ever heard him or seen him?
No.
He is awesome. He is kind of new on the scene, but he has just exploded. Clean, family-friendly comedy. But he said that his daughter is a YouTuber, and he used the air quotes, and the only audience would be him and his wife. But how about kids read a book, and then if they get really antsy talking about it, do a podcast, and they're talking about the book, and they ask you questions, you ask them questions, talk about what it meant. It's not a real podcast, or maybe it is for some kids, but having a microphone or having them put on a play, I loved doing that when I was a little girl. The neighborhood kids who would get together and put on plays, you could do it based on a book, or talk about a movie or a song, any of those things, and suddenly there's some novelty to it. Remember, novelty and interest releases dopamine, which is a reward, feel-good chemical in the brain that is lower and not transmitted as well in those with ADHD and ADHD-like symptoms. Okay, yeah, let's move on.
Okay, cool.
So So I have 2 pages worth of books, and I'm not going to read this line by line. These are 2 pages that if you're looking for book lists, you may want to take screenshots. But I gave the name of the book, and then I kind of talked about what it is about. Like Zipper, Finding a Passion, What Makes Your Kids Shine, Friendship, School, Hyperactivity, Impulsivity. On a lot of these, I have the recommended age range. But keep in mind that we're talking about what's more important is your child's developmental age and their literacy level. Kids benefit and grow in their reading, even if they read stories that are a little bit behind their actual level. And it's okay for them to reread favorite books. They are still growing skills, although you also want to expose them to new material. When you are reading with them, I recommend reading books as much as 2 years ahead of their level, because you are growing vocabulary and more complex thoughts that maybe they're not ready to decipher yet on their own. And kids benefit from hearing you read to them all the way through at least middle school. And it is not just the words, it is not just the dialogue, it is hearing the prosody, the inflection. You are growing social emotional skills. When you've heard Corey read on the show before, and he has all these different voices and it's very animated, you are growing social emotional skills big time when you're doing that. And then you can connect that to feelings. How do you think that character is feeling? And you could read the same story with different tones of voice, and it means something different. Get ready for Jetty, my journal about ADHD and me, fantastic. I'm not going to read all these out loud, but one thing, Eagle Eyes and I'm Somebody Too, those are a team. Eagle Eyes is really geared toward the individual who struggles paying attention. I'm Somebody Too is geared towards siblings of someone who is having ADHD-like symptoms. We got to keep in mind that these books are to help kids understand themselves, but it also can really bridge a gap of understanding with family members or friends. But we also need to keep in mind there are many books where there's a sibling involvement and the sibling's perspective, and we want to make sure they don't resent and they understand the difference between, I don't love your brother, your sister more. They have certain needs that require attention, but then I have special time with you. I take you to guitar lessons. We do this and that together. But in I'm Somebody Too, the sibling is trying to get attention, trying to be good enough to earn that by being perfect. And then she learns what's really going on and that she doesn't have to be perfect and that she has a very important place in the family. Anytime you can do series, and any of these that are series that I know of, I put series beside it. I know these characters. I can't wait to see what happens next in their lives. They're my friends. You're already going to have more engagement with that. And Phoebe has difficulty making friends. Let's see. Oh, this morning Sam went to Mars. If you are saying my child has some of these symptoms, inattention, impulsivity, etc., but I'm not big on a label and I really want to try a holistic route first, that's what that book is about, but from a child's perspective. for younger kids, pay attention, Emily Brown. And also this grows phonics and phonological awareness because it's rhyming, but it's really cute. But it treats those struggles with humor, reassurance. Now, Joey Pigza, this is a 3-book series. You see, I have warning. These books are very well renowned. They are excellent in a ton of ways, but I want you to be aware that they incorporate topics like divorce, child custody, alcoholism, in addition to the neurodiverse struggles that are associated with ADHD. Now, some of our kids are going through some of those things. Maybe a parent struggles with addiction or they are going through divorce, but you might want to read these books first. The Joey Pigza, that's why I put a warning there. But for older kids or kids who are actually going through that, you could be hitting on all cylinders on things that really apply to them, neurodiversity and, family struggles. Okay.
These are great books. And I hope everybody got a screenshot when I made it, full screen. But just in case, we'll give you a few seconds to just do a screenshot again right now. There you go. All right. And now we're going to talk about...
Let's move on. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got other books for neurodiverse teens and kids.
Yes. So Henry Winkler and a co-author wrote a 10-book series, the Hank Zipzer series. And Henry Winkler is diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. They are super funny. I think he found salami in his report card or something. Like, they're really funny things, but it addresses reading struggles and ADHD. Now, 6th grade can really kill you. I cannot tell you how much I love some of the lessons in this book. It talks about learning differences. And if so many times kids are vague in their answers, or you might hear from the teacher, they don't participate in class, they don't raise their hand. They might be trying to hide their struggles because you think I'm smart, you think I can do this, and I had rather you think that than for you to find out that's not true. I'd rather get in trouble for not trying. So this is about a girl who's trying to hide her struggles. She's so scared of being found out. What if she has to repeat the grade? That would be so embarrassing. She is compensating. She's finding workarounds. It's cool that we can compensate, but she has struggles that are addressable, and it is zapping her quality of life. Compensation is not the same as quality of life. So, and then she finally learns how to ask for help. So self-advocacy. Where my mind goes during science class, this is really geared towards twice exceptional students. So those who are gifted in certain areas, and then maybe they struggle, maybe they're diagnosed with ADHD, or maybe they have a learning struggle. And it really is celebrating the strengths and also recognizing the struggles. We are not either or, we're all a combination. Now, the Taking Dyslexia to School, this is a series that the one about dyslexia also covers math struggles. And this little guy is a sort of a role model for self-advocacy. But this is a series. There's one about autism. I want to warn you with the one on autism. It has a more stereotypical depiction of what autism is. And we know it's a spectrum, and it looks very, very different from person to person. So be aware of that. But the message in there is about inclusion and accepting people. People don't have to be just like you for us to accept them and be their friend. But I did want you to know it's a stereotypical depiction that does not at all describe autism. Looks different in every person. Now, there is one about ADHD. Now, if you're very anti-medication, I'm not telling you to be pro or anti, but if you're anti-medication, this one does talk about medication quite a lot. There are even books in this series about health challenges like cancer. So this is not just for neurodiversity. How fantastic. Let's say a little one has cancer, loses their hair. I mean, these are great books, not just for the person going through this, but also for people, for friends and for siblings and for those in their lives to garner perspective and how to be supportive in that. Aloha Island. This is about learning and reading difficulties, more for the younger kids, and really will grow a lot of phonics and phonological awareness at the same time. Now, the books at the bottom, when reading is just hard, the ones that I have listed down here, a lot of them have a lot of pictures which break up the text, and make it easier for kids who have like eye tracking struggles. Some of them have special font that makes it easier for kids with dyslexia or visual perception issues. Those are not the same thing. There are so many good books that I did not list on any of these slides about dyslexia. Like the story and the message is good, but the way they describe dyslexia is actually visual perception issues. And I didn't want to put out false messages on that. Please, please, please know that a lot of kids have visual perception issues where their eyes jump around the page. They think the letters and words or even numbers on a math page are jumping around on the page, or they start merging together. And that can be visual perception. Dyslexia is a language and auditory processing based struggle. Kids can have both, but there are many good books that I didn't put on here because they kind of can be confusing about what dyslexia is. But I have ages on these down here. These are absolutely, if you could go to Amazon and see some of these have multi-thousands, many, many, many hundreds of reviews that are 5-star, almost 5-star ratings. They are, if your kids are just like, I hate reading, if they've decided that, these books will change their mind. And I know a lot of people know about Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Jeff Kinney and his graphic novels. Graphic novels, some parents have asked me, is that really reading? All they want to read is graphic novels. Those often, if that's going to get your kid reading, yes. And one of the reasons so many of our kids like those is they have visual perception issues, and then there are pictures and not as many words on a page. And there are at least 3 movies that are made out of Jeff Kinney's novels. And a really cool family activity would be to watch the movie after you read the book and compare and contrast the book to the movie. How was it alike? How was it different? How did you picture things versus how the movie depicted it? That makes it more fun and engaging. I think the others of these, the Horrid Henry series, 24 books, and they are a bargain, a bargain of a deal. And those have some lessons about right and wrong and understanding consequences of your actions. So they have good messages in there, but these are books that are winners across the board. And parents have said, wow, I didn't think my kid would read anything, and they can't put these books down. All right. So I think we lost Corey, but
there's a dog barking in my background, and so I'm just going to mute myself and let you take us out. I'm going to take us into our next screen and let you talk about where the heck they can find you and how amazing, because my dog's going. So here we go.
All right. All right. So here you see listed my professional page, which is on Instagram or Facebook at The Hidden Churn. And then we have Brain Balance of Katie, Mansfield, and the Woodlands. And through June, we are offering complimentary reading screenings as well as complimentary attention screenings. If you would like to join the Heather's Help weekly newsletter, please just drop us a line in the comments on the video, or you can also message us on Facebook and we can get you added. It is chock full of all kinds of tips for social, emotional, behavioral growth, academic growth, all kinds of topics each week. And I will be back Thursday at 1:00 with Dr. Brian. He will be returning from vacation. But thank you all so much for joining in today. And I hope you have a great week. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience as my little puppy decides to scream as loud as possible. So there we go. All right, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Bye.